Okay, it's review time. You know what? Let me use the restroom really quickly, and then we'll get to the review, because I don't want to be impatient with how I handle this. Be right back. I play on original hardware, Hishide. Yes, always. Original hardware. Give me a minute. I could choose the other option. Yeah, I imagine it's just one of those bad ending kind of things. Okay, as you can see, Ratchet & Clank was a very large winner here. A very surprising winner, and the margin that it won by. Thank you very, very much for all the support for me to get to play Breath of Fire 3. I mean, from giving me the game to begin with, because it was one of those games that I lost as a kid, to the crazy support to get it voted in. And of course, everybody that voted for the games currently. We're going to go ahead and wipe the votes, as we always do. Again, thank you very, very much for all the support. Thank you. And then Dirge of Cerberus from Weewa. Thank you, Weewa. Thank you so much for voting for Dirge of Cerberus. Ratchet & Clank will now be our next game. And Breath of Fire 3. 16, 24, 32. I estimated 35 hours. We beat it about that. I estimate Ratchet & Clank will be about 20 hours. We'll see. Alright, here's our previous games that we finished. Can someone grab me the release date for this game, please? For the US version, of course. PlayStation.
No! No, 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 no!
Thank you very much, Dragon Skull, for the 600 bits. That is a vote for... Oh, Valkyria Chronicles Remastered. I was like, Valkyrie Profile Remastered isn't a game. Yeah, Valkyria Chronicles. Got it. I'm about some Valkyrie Chronicles. I have played it a little bit, so it is on there for me. You can donate right now. As soon as I clear the votes, actually as soon as credits start, you can start voting. It's just that I haven't cleared the votes yet. And anything sent once credits start goes towards the next vote. Credits is the cutoff point. But with the auto updater, I don't delete them until I start the reviews. So I mean, you know, but yeah, anytime at this point, it can be voted on. April 30th, 1998. Thank you. Wow, that's actually a little bit later than I. Oh, don't do calendar thingy. That's after Final Fantasy VII. Okay, so first things first, let's get into why and how we rate things. We're collecting data. These are points of data on a line. How good is it in comparison to the grand scheme of things? And to that end, every review should always be a 5 is average, as noted on this. This is what's called a bell curve, okay? And these are, what is it called, a standard deviation or something like that? I forget. Anyway, the point is that the vast majority of data lies within the average or slightly above or slightly below average. There's where 80% of the world lies. Like, if you want to rate people on intelligence, that's where that's true. This is the thing, you know? Anyway, that being said, we're collecting data. What's average? 5. 5 is average. Because if you rate 7 as average, then 1 through 5 doesn't matter. You're rating on a 1 through 5 scale. So, anyway, point is 5 is average. Don't get upset when I rate a game 5 as being average, because that's average. Arian, thank you for the $15 donation, you asshole. You asshole. The vote for Dirge's Cerberus, man. Oh, God dang it. Thank you very much for the $50 donation, man. Thank you, dude. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh. Champion of the people. You know, I'm just gonna let you know, okay, Dirge's Cerberus isn't that long. I can beat in 2 nights, alright? Thank you very much, man. Thank you, dude. Alright, so visuals, when we rate things, we rate all-encompassing, okay? Just because there's one part of the game that excels visually, if another part of the game does not excel visually or is bad, I'm gonna take points off on the full score, you know? Like, for instance, you know, let's say sprite work is amazing in this game, but let's say dungeon design wasn't amazing in this game. That wasn't that great. You know, take points off. Or maybe if it's average, you just don't take points off at all. Point is, animations, sprite work, visuals, spell effects, character design. Okay, I thought Arian was bad. Holy crap, dude. Choban, thank you for the 10,041 bits for the vote to Battletoads on the NES. Yeah. Oh God, dude. I don't want to. Okay, Friday night, it's canceled. I don't want to do it. The only votes are things that I fear. Thank you, Chopin, for the 10,041 bits, man. Thank you very much. Thank you for the incredibly generous cheer. Wow. How did I have Battletoads. I had it as a kid. I played it a whole bunch, never beat it. So that's why it's on the list. Wow, dude. Thank you very much. That is going to be a very salty game. That's going to be a very salty game. Thank you. We'll see what happens, though. Ratchet and Clank is going to be a short play. I estimate 2 to 3 days on that one. So, anyway, everything that has to do with visuals, animations, dungeon design, you know, details, texturing, animations, I say animations, character design, aesthetic, staying true to that aesthetic design, all that stuff. It's all visuals. Audio, same deal, sound effects, spell effects, balance, voice acting, little things, nuances, you know, just everything that has to do with your ears. Audio, right? All those things go into consideration. Gameplay could be from mini games to the world map movement to the side content like the fairy village. That's part of gameplay, you know, to how just basic combat is, how deep the combat is, how interesting the combat is. I only have myself to blame. I didn't make the list. True, I made it. That's true. That's true. Story is same deal, you know. So side stories can kind of count towards this a little bit too if it has impact, or if there's too much side content and not enough actual real content story. Craftsmanship is kind of like how well is the game built. Does it make sense? Is it buggy? Does it have a lot of like interesting development? You know, like I think I rated craftsmanship really high on Persona 4 because the game is so long, but they don't like deviate from the path to like create any kind of loopholes or anything like that. The story is cohesive all the way through. Like I compared it to tying a braid. When you tie a braid, at first, the first braid, it's easy to keep it tight, but the longer the braid goes, the harder it is to keep it tight up, you know, as a braid before it comes loose, you know, and you gotta keep going as long as you can, and the longer you go, that's impressive. But anyway, yeah, we finished Breath of Fire 3, so let's mark that as green. Hey, I picked the right color this time. All right, visuals. This game is stupidly visually impressive. This is such an impressive display of pixel art and color and character design and just, it's freaking gorgeous. The game is beautiful. It's really, really gorgeous. And a lot of these sprites have a lot of frames of animation to their, well, to their animations. There's a lot of frames to the animations, you know? It's just, it's impressive visually. Now, I will say it's not perfect. There's a lot of points in the game visually where there's a lot of bland areas, and I understand like junk land is supposed to be bland. That's like part of it. They do a good mix of 3D and 2D to make it so the game's 3D can become more vivid. You know what's funny is Breath of Fire 3 is the direct reverse of Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9. Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 use 3D models for characters, NPCs, and interactable items, whereas, and then 2D backgrounds, whereas Breath of Fire 3 uses 3D backgrounds and environment and 2D sprites and characters. Huh, interesting. But yeah, they do a really good job of integrating 3D with 2D to the point where it doesn't feel like there's anything awkward in how you're interacting with the world. Sometimes 2D and 3D can interact really awkwardly together, but it does it really, really well in this game. Very well, in fact. Just like how you position yourself on ladders, to how you engage the world map, moving into doors, you know, bouncing off of like your what's it called? Collision detection with the environment, and like when you hold right and there's like a diagonal wall, it'll automatically straighten you out and let you ride the wall. That's why I rode the wall so many times, because I could just hold the cardinal direction instead of going diagonal. Sardines! And sardines. Thank you, Master VG, for the 100 bits. And that's more votes to Battletoads. Shit. Thank you very much. But yeah, like just the sprite work and the design and the character design and just everything. The world map had this very unique aesthetic that was very charming, little chibi units on the map. Heck, they even had multiple animations for Kid Ryu and kid versions of many of the characters. And it just was amazingly visually striking. Very well done. However, I'm going to take a couple points off because the dungeon design in a lot of areas was not only bland, but you kind of like, it started near the end of the game especially, being like samey hallways. Like the final dungeon, it's the final dungeon. It should be cool. But it was just kind of long and mechanical hallways, and there wasn't really a whole lot going on there. But a lot of the other dungeons did feel like, you know, a farming plant, or it did feel like a lighthouse, or you know, something along those lines. Like it did portray a lot of different areas well. And yeah, the last dungeon did feel like a slog, but that's more of a gameplay thing than visual. But yes, good point. But it doesn't do that much to harm the visual score. It's still an 8 as far as I'm concerned. Eight is an incredible score, by the way. You should understand that. There's not much better than 8, you know? 8 is very, very good. Audio, this is another really good part of the game. The OST of this game was just, it had me booping and bobbing. I could not stop whistling and like humming and just getting into the music, and it stays good. The world map music is awesome. It's cool doge all over the place. There's a lot of battle themes and boss themes that are just great. It's just good. The only problem I had with audio was, there was silence in a lot of areas, and I understand that like late PS1, early PS2 was kind of this era for having silence in a lot of areas to create a mood or something, with some background aesthetic like seagulls on the beach or something like that. But I mean, this is a classic RPG, okay? It should be treated like that, and that kind of means music everywhere, more or less, unless there's a really important reason for it. And having silence in some areas was frustrating. Yeah, get out of here, silence. Thank you, VG, for the 456 bits. I think VG really wants to see me suffer with Battletoads. Thank you very much. The sound effects were great. I didn't like how some were jingles and some were like effects. You know, like the effect confirm was like boodoo-ding instead of boop, you know, kind of just had this sort of jingle instead. But it didn't sound bad. It made it harder to menu music, and that's just like my own personal gripe, you know. What is biggest bridge? I mean, I can give you a preview if you want. It's I can give you a actually Lightning Returns. It's actually Lightning Returns, my all-time most hated Final Fantasy ever. Thank you, Chobin, for the 25,000 bits, man. Oh, I'm just gonna take my time with Ratchet and Clank. Thank you very much, and yes, that is definitely Kazoo Big Bridge. My favorite track ever is Big Bridge, and Kazoo Big Bridge is hilarious. And there you go. That's the alert. Thank you, man. Very much for the crazy support, dude. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dang. Wow, that is some tremendous support right now. Thank you guys so much. If you knew about Battletoads, you know it's a famously very difficult NES game. Very difficult. People want to watch me suffer. Exactly. You love me in weird ways, yeah. I don't think... Dang, man. I don't think the audio is as good as the visuals. So I don't want to rate it as high as the visuals, but it deserves to have a high rating, and I think a 7 is more than acceptable for the audio in this game. Oh, we want to get rid of bold. Okay, we're just gonna do that, I guess. Your only issue with the music personally is the battle music is short and very repetitive. Yeah, that's kind of part of it as well. Yeah, again, the visuals are far more striking than the OST and the sound design for sure. My rule of thumb, Kuja, is if I'm torn between a higher score or a lower score, I always go with the lower score, because once you start like rounding up everything, then you're left with a bunch of 7s and 8s and 9s, and there's no room for games that are better than those, you know? So I always kind of take it down to make sure there's balance. It's a balancing thing. Oh, the enjoyment score is completely subjective. I try to be as objective as possible in these scores, but you know, I'm only human, and this is like the personal subjective score. Okay, gameplay. This is actually gonna take a little bit of a hit. First off, let me just say that combat gameplay is quite good, but I really wish there was like a better testing ground for dragon forms. Like maybe there was a menu for it so you could see which combinations do what, because like dragon forms eat your AP big time. They soak it all up, and you get maybe, you know, you want to save your AP for bosses, for dragon form, you know? And so you get one chance to pop your dragon form and see what kind of forms. And of course you don't want to test it on a boss, because you're in a boss. You want to know, you want to use what works, you know? We want to use what works. So like there wasn't really a lot of desire for me to test anything. And the only reason I found out about Warrior was because the 1v1 battle the game puts you on, and every dragon form that I had, I never ever tried a triple combo? Yeah, exactly, because the AP is so extensive, you know, that's why I never tried it. But the only reason I figured out Warrior was because there's a 1v1 battle that Ryo has to fight against that Dragon Slayer guy, and I thought, well, this is a 1v1. I'm gonna need to find some kind of new dragon form here. And so I messed around with a physical form and something that empowers it. I thought, this works. This is gonna empower my physical. Cool, let's do this. And it was Warrior. I focused, and then I aura'd, and I hit him for like 1500. And that was like halfway through the game, I was doing 100 damage. I was like, okay, yeah, we found the form we like. We found the formula, and I just stuck with it for the rest of the game. That was what I used. Hell, I one-shot some bosses, you know? But that's the thing. It's like, there was no reason for me to experiment with the forms at all, because it was too punishing. And if there was a menu to let you look around and see what you could do, you might be more prone to try it out on the boss and see what happens, you know? And I still think the dragon system is a little bit better than I thought it was originally when I tried a lot of different forms and it was all garbage in the beginning of the game. It still has a lot of like room to grow and be better in. I found every single gene in the entire game just going through casually, which was pretty impressive, I think. I don't normally do stuff like that, so that was pretty cool. And I still it's just too much to try and test, so. But anyway, that being said, combat was still fine. The master system was kind of neat. It lets you help you grow a character the way you wanted to, but it felt like most of the masters were either hidden, too many negatives, or required ridiculous things to get. Like the cat cook wanted you to catch like 18 million different fishies of different sizes, and it's just like, no, I'm not, no, no. I only found like 7 masters, I think, and I feel like there's a whole bunch of other masters out there that are really, really good, but it's just, they're hidden. There's a lot of negatives. It's kind of a bad system. You have to go to them to start learning with them again, and like people like Bunyan, you had to fight battles like of level 1 enemies to get to them. Heck, with frickin' Entai, you had to go through an entire dungeon just to get back to him to learn your more abilities from him. It was just, it was a bummer, you know? Fishmaster's best, +4 HP and AP, -2 strength, int, vitality, and agility. What the F? What? Why? You know? Yeah, exactly, that's exactly it. Like, why? You know? Anyway, it lacked in the master system quite a bit. And the abilities that you learn should be known before you start your training, so you know when to go back and get them. Instead, it's just like, hey, go through this entire dungeon and go back to your master to see if you can learn any abilities. Oh, you didn't? Well, go back through the dungeon again to get back to where you need to go. And it's just like, can you just have a good menu so I can know things and not have to go, you know, or just like have it be able to all be done through the campaign? Change masters, change abilities, learn abilities, get abilities, all of that should be there. And then less negatives. -2 AP on Ryu was pretty punishing, but it worked out because I hit like an absolute freaking truck, so. Pico breath attacks, yeah. I liked Pico at the end, but it took a while for him to build up. I mean, it was always useful because he just never died. It made him very reliable. I could always count on him to use an item or something like that. In fact, him going slow was actually a benefit because like if I didn't, like using it in ammonia was a 1 HP res, so using at the end of the turn, I would guarantee he goes last, res Nina. Nina always goes first, heal herself. GG, you know? Yeah. We finished about an hour ago, and we're just doing a review. But anyway, gameplay was kind of hit and miss in that regard. It's your standard, typical JRPG for the most part, with a little bit of nice stuff, a little bit of cool fairy village stuff. I really wanted to get more involved in that. I wish they had let me know that culture was the reason I could increase my population. And I wish there was a little bit more time to mess with it. Once you get to the desert, that's it. Bye-bye fairy village. You know, you don't get any more chances to go back and check on it. In fact, I think I only ever got like one little mini piece of equipment from it. It really should, I don't know, it just cut you away from it at the end of the game. It should still have had some fairy circles or something, or maybe you could access it through a save point instead or something, you know, to let me have access to it again, because I felt like there was a lot more to be done there, and it just kind of felt like I just started, and so it seemed like a really cool little mini game fairy thing, but the game kind of stole me away. Also, the game was shorter than I expected. It's like you're a kid, and then when you finally are an adult, you just go back to the place you were a kid a couple times, and then there's like 2 major areas, and then that's it, you know? It just kind of felt a little rushed. I didn't feel like I went on a grand journey, you know? I felt like I did the cool thing of crossing the ocean, and then I was done. In Grandia, when you go across the wall, man, it's like this big deal, and that's like just the beginning, you know? This felt like I finally did the big crossing, and then the game ended, you know? You've learned barely anything else about the rest of the game, but that's more story related than anything. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and go against, I want to give it a 5, but I think it actually does deserve a 6, because part of the gameplay is the visuals, and the visuals are very striking, and it makes you feel cool for doing a lot of stuff. And so I think that's important. It's not always about how well balanced the mechanics are. Sometimes it's just about how cool it feels to do stuff. And in that regard, it does a good job of that. You do feel pretty cool about doing stuff. Criticals feel very, very fulfilling. There's a lot of, oh, you know what? The forced character changes and party changes and forced, you know, I'll keep it as a 6, but I still want to make another hit because it forced party members on you and then made you go through dungeons and then go, oh, you need this character to advance. And then you had to go all the way back to the character change place, do the dungeon all over again. I would take it down to a 5 if I had thought about it earlier, but I'll keep it as a 6. It's definitely above average from the core gameplay elements, but there's a lot of stuff in it that's really annoying. But yeah. Oh, it's bolded. Oh, it wasn't bolded. Okay. Hello? Bold. Go away. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, Party changes for required character. Yeah. Like, you have to go through a dungeon, you get to the end of the dungeon, and it's like you need Pico to hit a button to smash the button. So if you don't have Pico in your party, you have to go all the way through the dungeon, out of the dungeon, go get Pico and bring him all the way back into the dungeon, get to the end, hit the button. They did that on multiple occasions. I had to go back for Momo and Ray all the time. Dude, the final dungeon took me like 3 hours extra just because of that stuff. It was really annoying, really annoying. And it made the last dungeon a huge slog instead of something enjoyable or fun. Story, like this isn't a good example of a story with a lot of really good. Yeah, required without explicit warning. Exactly. The game doesn't say, hey, bring Momo because she can work with all the machines. You know, it should just force Momo. Just put her in my party and black it out. Fine, you know? But what they really should have done is just not make characters required at all. You give me 6 characters to choose from, and then you say you have to use these 2. When I get a choice of 3. So it's just like, not really a choice, is there? Hell, you have to pick Ray just to get to the second to final boss. You have to have Ray in your party. Have to. Just, Anyway, it just kind of makes it feel like you're not in control of the choice. Story. Now, this is another example of a story that has a lot of great concepts in it, but doesn't really deliver on the detail. Not only that, but the story kind of ends abruptly. You know, yeah, you're the goddess this, goddess that, I'm a dragon, blah, 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 the dragon war. And then boom, you're at the goddess and game's over, you know? There's a lot of like really cool ideals that are never really expanded on. There could just have been a lot more depth to the story. And this is definitely in the era where stories in games, like storytelling in video games was at its birth, you know? This was the time when game developers like, whoa, we can have a deep story in our video games now. We can tell an actual story. And I think it's a little unforgivable at this point to have such a flat and basic, more or less, you know, SNES quality story, you know? And it didn't really have a lot of depth or flavor. There was a couple parts that were neat, but more or less it was just kind of like hero's journey, you know? But it wasn't necessarily bad either. It just wasn't really striking. And I think because they failed to go into more detail on a lot of interesting concepts that I can't for the life of me remember, and I really wanted to remember these, but there was stuff that I was thinking of at the end. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4. Yeah, I know. Where's the full frontal nudity form? Jeez. Gosh. Unbelievable. Craftsmanship. This is actually, unfortunately, one of those scores that I would love to give like an 8 to. But it actually, there's a lot of things that draw back from that high score. And that has to do with one of the things being, like I was talking about before, with the fairy village kind of just being taken away and there's not really a whole lot of time to grow on it. It feels like the fairy village could have been something that was... oh, the playlist stopped. It feels like the fairy village could have been something that was given to you the whole game, but instead it was given to you about the 40% way into the game, and so you barely had any time to really mess around with it. It would have been really cool if, like, you got the fairy village as a kid, and then there was something big that happened with the fairy village when you went to an adult, and that helped, like, it grow and become a little bit different. Like, there was like a growth cap as a kid, and then when you get turned into it, when you rest for 10 years or whatever to become an adult, you come back to the fairy village and like, hey, this thing happened, and now we have more space so we can plow fields and stuff, you know? And it just felt like there was no time to do the fairy village, and I wanted to do it as I went, but the game kind of just ended pretty prematurely, it felt. And so most of the game is just kind of redoing a lot of the places that you've already been. You go to Wendy as a kid, then you come back as an adult, and you do this as a kid, you come back as an adult. And I just wish there was a little bit more, I don't know. It feels like they started off really strong. There was a large portion of the game that you were a kid and you came back in as an adult and all the things were different and they evolved. Like Bait had a family, you know? But then like once you get past that part that you already did as a kid, there's one area and you're done. And then that's the end of the game. Like it just feels like the adult portion of it should have been significantly longer. Oh. Whatever. I mean, spell check didn't pick it up, so whatever. But anyway. Premature encapsulation, yeah. Premature ending of the game in general. You know, it just kind of ended. And it's not like the game is poorly made or anything. It's just that there's nothing special about it. I'm not going to give it a bad score. I'm just going to kind of be like, yeah, whatever. It's a game. Enjoyment. Now this is my personal bias score. This is my, I don't care about how much I think I would recommend it to someone else. This is how much I enjoyed the game. I loved it. It was great. It was a good time. I had a really fun time with this game. I loved just all the different monster designs and the visuals. I hated the desert. That was bullshit, by the way. I should mark the gameplay as a 5 just for that desert bullcrap, but whatever. I'll keep it as a 6. But the game, like, it's weird because the game lacks the most, really, in my opinion, with gameplay. But the visuals and the audio really make up for it. And the gameplay is good enough to where the story being mad doesn't really matter. And you can just really, really enjoy it. And that's what I did. I accepted it for what it was right out of the gate. And because of that, I had a lot of fun with it. And I want to say I probably enjoyed this about as much as Tales of Berseria. So that's an 8 right there. You know what? I knew of 2 hidden items in the desert, and I took one second, like one glance at that, and I was just like, no. And then I advanced, and then I left. You know, like you talk to the guy that got lost in the desert, you're just like big middle fingers to him, and you're just like, no. Oh, there you go. There's your review of Breath of Fire. The Archmage enemy that I ran into that did absorb damage is one of the 2 super enemies of the game. The fact that you ran into on your first encounter in that area is funny. What's the spawn rate of that encounter? Oh, Pico's best weapon is in the desert? No wonder I didn't get anything. Dang. Well, I kind of wish I had the song playing when I was actually done talking, but we're still talking. But anyway, thank you everybody. Tomorrow I do not stream. Tomorrow is my day off. It's my one day off of the week. I will be doing probably taxes and hanging out with my girlfriend. So thank you everybody for watching and enjoying Breath of Fire 3. I hope my review was sufficient for you. I hope you guys had a good time. I had a fantastic time with Breath of Fire and with you guys. It was a good game. It was just a nice, classic, cozy RPG. And I look forward to an all-new lineup next week, by the way. We beat Dragon Warrior 2, we beat Persona 4, and we beat Breath of Fire 3, all in the last hours of the stream. So, like, we perfectly finished all 3 of the games. That is crazy to me, all the games lining up like that. So next week we have an entirely new lineup. Star Ocean on the SNES, Yakuza Kiwami 2, which by the way, you're not gonna want to miss that. Yakuza, Kiwami, and Yakuza in general, so good and hilarious. Excellent writing, just clever and witty and fun. Oh my god, Yakuza games are A+, and you're definitely gonna want to be there for that. But Star Ocean SNES, one that got away, we never got it, so I'll be playing that on a repro cart with translation patch, SNES, original hardware. And our next variety game, Ratchet and Clank, which I'm also very excited for. I've heard it's very clever, very well designed, the staple for 3D platformers. So again, very excited for that as well. 2% chance. Okay, that's true. Oh yeah, the Iron Giant. Yeah, I did encounter the Iron Giant in the final dungeon during the Fiesta with a 2% chance. So if anybody's gonna get the super rare spawn rate that's gonna murder me, it's gonna be me. Like, mark my words, guys. I will encounter Warmech on FF1 next Fiesta. It's gonna happen. I missed the final equipment shop. It was at ground level in Sears Zen and like one of the buildings you didn't go to. Oh man, I thought I went into everything. You know what though, Dragon Darch? I annihilated everything anyway. I didn't really need the shop. So I felt like I pretty much made the end game my bitch, to be honest. And I didn't even do the OP Kaiser Dragon. Yeah, I kind of destroyed the end game. I felt like level 42 is pretty high. I mean, I got lost, but still, I mean, whatever. Yeah, I did the Fusion Dragon. Yep. One-shotting bosses was fun. Anyway, again, thank you very much for the tremendous support, especially at the end here. Thank you very much. I very much look forward to starting up on Thursday with a brand new roster of games. Join the Discord. Follow the YouTubes, Twitter, and all that stuff. You're going to want to, because that's where all the stuff goes. YouTube is going to have new content tonight. We're going to have the end of Persona 4. Wait. No, we'll have yesterday's Breath of Fire 3 on there. And then on Thursday, we'll have the final Breath of Fire day. But all the stuff goes there if you want to catch up on stuff. And you'll know when I go live. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for hanging out. I'll do a quick browse for a host target. But again, this time really sucks for hosts. I used to have tons of host targets when I streamed later. And whenever I end early, I have tons of host targets. But like, the people that I follow are all speedrunners, and I don't really like hosting speedrunners all that much when I'm doing casual, and I just need to find more friends. And the friends that I have found end before I end, so it's just like, what am I gonna do? Although I haven't hosted some people in a bit, wouldn't mind seeing what we got. Just attack Gyre or Swoog, I know, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, you know what? Swoog is streaming right now. I haven't given him a host in a good old time, so let's hit up East. Wait, that's not Swoog. Starstorm. Oh, it's Swookon. Oh, he's doing a thing. Let's see what else is going on. Actually, let's see what else is going on. I'm not sure. Let's not go to Camelot. 'Tis a silly place. Yeah. Let's give it to Jintatsu, actually. Jintatsu's good dude. Jinbro is awesome, and he's super chill, and he did his own Final Fantasy event, 1 through 15 with spin-offs called Final Fantasy Forever, and he's still going. He's been going for a while now, and he's a good dude. Let's head it up for Jintatsu, and we'll see you guys Thursday, 1 p.m. PST. You guys are awesome. Good night.
You know,